ServSafe alcohol exam questions and answers. Question 1. Why is food safety important? To prevent and stop foodborne illness and contaminants from getting into food and creating an outbreak. No loss of sales or business. To maintain a good reputation for the business. All of the above. Question 2. Identify the 5 most common risk factors to keeping food safe. Purchasing ingredients from safe sources, holding foods at the wrong temperatures, poor hygiene practices, using contaminated tools and equipment, improper cooking of foods. Purchasing ingredients from unsafe sources, holding foods at the wrong temperatures, poor hygiene practices, using contaminated tools and equipment, improper cooking of foods. Purchasing ingredients from unsafe sources, holding foods at the wrong temperatures, poor hygiene practices, using contaminated tools and equipment, properly cooking foods. Purchasing ingredients from unsafe sources, holding foods at the right temperatures, poor hygiene practices, using contaminated tools and equipment, improper cooking of foods. Question 3. When a food service worker avoids personal behaviors that can contaminate food, they are spreading foodborne illnesses, managing inventory, practicing proper personal hygiene, on time and ready for work. Question 4. Which of the following is a proper technique to wash hands? Wet hands and arms, apply soap, scrub hands and arms for 30 seconds, rinse hands and arms, dry hands and arms. Wet hands and arms, apply soap, scrub hands and arms for 10 to 15 seconds, rinse hands and arms, dry hands and arms. Apply soap, wet hands and arms, scrub hands and arms for 10 to 15 seconds, rinse hands and arms, dry hands and arms. Wet hands and arms, apply soap, scrub hands and arms for 10 to 15 seconds, dry hands and arms. Question 5. A foodborne illness can be caused by cross-contamination when, check all that apply. Contaminated ingredients are discarded and not used. Foods touch contaminated surfaces right before being served. Foods are properly stored, cooked, handled, and served. Dirty unwashed towels are used to clean food contact surfaces. Question 6. Cross-contamination is plating different foods on the same plate, is making sure that foods are stored correctly. The spread of bacteria or pathogens from one tool, food item or surface to another. The time it takes to put away a delivery. Question 7. The temperature zone of 41 degrees Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit is known as the temperature in zone, the temperature danger zone, the temperature safety zone, the temperature food zone. Question 8. Food that has been held in the temperature danger zone has been subjected to time temperature abuse, danger temperature abuse, time temperature zone temperature abuse. Question 9. An example of proper sanitization is not washing dishes, to save water, washing, rinsing, and sanitizing all food contact surfaces between use and as needed. Keep sanitizing towels on the table next to the sanitizing solution, using hot soapy water instead of sanitizing solution. Question 10. Food contact surfaces can be sanitized by which methods? Check all that apply. Scrubbing with hot soapy water. Immersing in water at least 171 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 seconds. Using an approved chemical solution of chlorine, iodine, or quartz. Using floor cleaner. Question 11. Time and temperature abuse happens when foods are not cooked or reheated to the proper temperature to kill pathogens. Foods are held at the proper temperature. Foods are cooled properly. Foods are not held at the proper temperature or cooled properly. Question 12. At which part of the flow of food is food safety the biggest concern? Purchasing, receiving, and storing, prep, cooking, reheating, and serving, holding and cooling, all of the above. Question 13. After touching the hair, scratching the skin, or rubbing the face, a food service worker must wash their hands, put on a new pair of gloves, take a selfie, take a break. Question 14. Food service workers can use hand sanitizer in place of hand washing when there isn't enough time to wash their hands. Hand sanitizer is never enough to be used in place of hand washing, when they are wearing gloves, when the hand sink is broken. Question 15. Food can be contaminated, accidentally, during processing or manufacturing, from chemicals or physical hazards, from poor personal hygiene of food handlers. Question 16. Food contaminants include, check all that apply, biological, physical, takeout, chemical. Question 17. An example of a corrective action to time temperature abuses: discarding the food, giving the food away, reheating food that was being held below 135 degrees, adding hot foods to foods below 135 degrees. Question 18. Preventing time temperature abuse can be done by keeping track of holding temperatures and times, using a proper working thermometer, taking corrective actions, as needed, all of the above. Question 19. The correct concentration for a chlorine sanitizing solution is 500 to 650 ppm, 50 to 99 ppm, 100 ppm, 1000 ppm. Question 20. Cleaning and sanitizing of food contact surfaces needs to happen, check all that apply, every 4 hours, when in constant use, before prepping a different food, as food is prepped, when work is stopped and foods may have been contaminated. Question 21. The best way to prep foods is to, check all that apply, prep all raw meats, poultry, fish, fruits, vegetables, and ready-to-eat foods at the same time using the same table. Prep all raw meats, poultry, fish, fruits, vegetables, and ready-to-eat foods at different times using the same table that has been washed, rinsed, and sanitized. Prep raw meats, poultry, fish, fruits, vegetables, and ready-to-eat foods at the same time using different tables, tools, and equipment. Prep all raw meats, poultry, fish, fruits, vegetables, and ready-to-eat foods at the same time using the same table. Question 22. Deliveries should be scheduled. To make the driver's schedule easier, when staff is scheduled and has time to inspect and put away items in a timely manner, during the rush, so the foods can be used right away. It doesn't matter when deliveries arrive, they can always be checked and put away. Question 23. Food service workers can work with wounds on their hands when they are almost healed. They use a bandage and waterproof tape. They have a doctor's note. They are covered by an impermeable bandage and a single-use glove. Question 24. Food service workers can wear fake nails and nail polish when it's a holiday or special occasion, with a single-use glove if allowed by local regulatory authorities, as long as they don't break or chip, if they follow proper hand-washing guidelines. Question 25. A food allergen is foods that customers don't like. A naturally occurring protein in an ingredient or food that some people are sensitive to. Food that are contaminated with chemicals. Something that makes you sneeze. Question 26. Allergic symptoms are things customers do to get free food, not very serious, are very serious, and they can quickly escalate to anaphylaxis shock and lead to death. Not something everyone needs to be concerned with. Question 27. Laser or infrared thermometers are not a good choice for checking the temperatures of food being held because they use long probes that can contaminate foods. They are hard to calibrate. They measure the surface temperature of foods. They are not accurate. Question 28. In order to make sure that thermometers will accurately take the temperature of foods, they must check all that apply, be calibrated weekly, be accurate to +/-2 degrees F, be accurate to +/-1 degrees F, be calibrated before each shift. Question 29. To take an accurate temperature you must check all that apply, take temperatures in more than one spot, ask someone to take temperatures and compare results. Take the temperature in the center or thickest part of the product. Allow enough time for the thermometer to record the correct temperature. Question 30. Cleaning supplies, chemicals, and tools should be stored in food storage areas, wherever there is extra space, away from food prep and food storage areas, outside the premises. Question 31. When should temperatures be taken when receiving deliveries? When all the items are put away, as they are brought into the kitchen by the delivery person. They don't need to be checked, the box has the temperature written on it, before they are unloaded from the truck. Question 32. When should refrigerated food items be rejected and sent back from delivery? Check all that apply. If the temperature is above 41 degrees Fahrenheit, if there is already enough inventory on the shelves, if the temperature is between 30 and 40 degrees, if the product is out of date. Question 33. Food service workers should change single-use gloves when they get torn or are dirty, when they start a new task, after taking a break, before handling ready-to-eat foods or after handling raw poultry, seafood, or meats. Question 34. Which of the following illnesses of a food service worker must be reported to the local regulatory agency? Check all that apply. Jaundice, vomiting, fever, and diarrhea. Hepatitis A, Salmonella typhi. Question 35. The big six food pathogens are Shigella spp, Salmonella typhi, non-typhoidal Salmonella, NTS, E. coli, Hepatitis A, and norovirus. Shigella spp, Salmonella typhi, non-typhoidal Salmonella, NTS, E. coli, Hepatitis B, and norovirus. Shigella spp, Salmonella typhi, non-typhoidal Salmonella, NTS, E. coli, Hepatitis A, and food allergies. Salmonella typhi, non-typhoidal Salmonella, NTS, E. coli, Hepatitis B, norovirus, and measles. Question 36. Service staff can prevent customers from receiving foods that contain allergens by be able to identify menu items that contain allergens, suggest alternatives that do not contain allergens, informing kitchen and serving staff that a customer has an allergy, serve the food separately to avoid any cross-contact with allergens. Question 37. Refrigerated foods that have been delivered and allowed to sit for hours before being put away have been subjected to a negligent staff, time temperature abuse, time temperature zone, zone temperature abuse. Question 38. The final sanitizing rinse in high temperature dish machine must be at least 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 135 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Fahrenheit, 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Question 39. When using a 3-sink to wash dishes, the correct water temperature for the first sink is at least 180 degrees Fahrenheit, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Question 40. Cleaned and sanitized small wares and equipment must be stored on clean and sanitized shelves, racks, cupboards, or drawers. On the floor, glasses and cups can be stored right side up, by the dish machine, in the dish machine until they need to be used.